Well, this morning I'm going to be speaking about Arab terrorism and the Golden Rule. Well, last week, sometime, I happened to look at the editorial page of the newspaper. I was just perusing it kind of casually, and I came across an article by Cal Thomas, whose column I very, very seldom read, but I caught my eye. It was about ISIS and their view of Westerners. Now, I'm going to share with you, excuse me, some of the things Mr. Thomas said. He said that many in the Islamic world reject Western values. A poll published last July in Saudi Arabia's Al Hayat News found that 92% of Saudis believe the Islamic State conforms to the values of Islamic law. And I read on. Other polls throughout the Islamic world show large numbers of Muslims are at least sympathetic, if not openly supportive of tactics used by extremists. And I took a deep breath and I thought, holy moly. It really shocked me, frankly. But then I remembered that many, if not most, Saudis are Wahhabists, which has become an ultra-conservative, militant, fundamentalist branch of Islam, whose followers believe that anybody who doesn't practice their brand of Islam are heathens and enemies. And no matter whether they're a good Arab, a good believer in Muhammad, they're enemies if it isn't exactly the way they believe. For the past 2 centuries, actually, Wahhabism has been the official belief of Saudi Arabia. 15 of the 19 hijackers on 9/11 were Saudi Wahhabists. So you can see how deep this stuff runs in them. But sadly, what's known today as Wahhabism is actually almost diametrically opposed to what Ibn Abd al-Wahhab taught. He wasn't an extremist. No. He was an 18th century Muslim teacher and reformer who insisted people go back to the tenets of the Quran because people had fallen away. They'd gone, they had not taken care of their belief systems. They weren't worshiping. Well, the Quran says that, and get this, Quran says that Muslims only fight defensively. Defensively, if an enemy army attacks them first, or if they are expelled from their homes for practicing their religion. Then, and only then, do they fight. Quran never tolerates unprovoked aggression from its own people. That's not what it teaches. Muslims are commanded in the Quran not to begin hostilities, to embark on any acts of aggression are forbidden. Violating the rights of other people, no way. Harming the innocent, absolutely not. You do not do that. Even hurting or destroying animals or trees are spoken against. Let me read you what the Quran says. Fight in the cause of God those who fight you, but do not transgress limits. For God loves not transgressors. But if they cease, God is oft forgiving, most merciful. If they cease, let there be no hostility except to those who practice oppression. So what this is saying is that Muslims are only allowed to go to war with those who first attack them. And as far as innocent bystanders or non-combatants, they must absolutely be left out of it. They're not to be touched. That's what the Quran says. That's what al-Wahhab taught. He was not a terrorist. Absolutely not. Unfortunately, in various parts of the Sunni world, especially the Arab Peninsula, they have deliberately left out parts of the Prophet's teachings on this subject, the subject of war. Ibn Abd al-Wahhab probably has been rolling over in his grave for 2.5 centuries because what has been done in his name is not what he preached. It is not the Quran. His and the Quran's policy on war was changed after his death, and it was changed for political reasons. The Saudi family, who were Wahhab's most important patrons, they took care of him, they believed in him. They wanted to expand their territory and their power, so they believed what they wanted to and discarded what they didn't want to. Now, there are lots of people who might say, don't tell me that some people who quote from the Quran that in passages that condone killing the infidel aren't right, because I've heard this. Well, sometimes statements are quoted, but out of context. They seem to say something when actually what is written there before and after just beams a whole different light on what is being said. What is actually being said is aggressive, warlike behavior is absolutely forbidden. The Quran has beautiful, absolutely spiritually true statements and precepts in it. It is a message of hope and faith and peace. It teaches that peace is to be found through faith in God. That's where peace is to be found. It's inside us. And justice among our fellow man. That's what gives us peace. Quran says that you shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witnesses against anyone, and you should not covet anything that another person has. Does that sound a little familiar? Yeah, sure does. And it goes on. You're to take care of your kinfolk, your family, your relatives. You are to take care of orphans. You are to take care of the weak and the needy. You are to take care of prisoners of war. It urges patience and truthfulness and honesty, trustworthiness, fulfilling your promises, your contracts. It says you are to be humble, modest, never arrogant. You are not to ridicule other people. You're not to talk about other people behind their backs. No racism, no bigotry. You treat everyone equal. And you are good to all. You are kind to all. The ethics of the Quran are of the highest order. It even contains what we in the West call the Golden Rule, as does something like 22 others of the great religions. Each and all have their own little version of it, either a negative or positive statement, but it's to be found all over the world, the Golden Rule. But I haven't studied these 22 different religions, and I really haven't studied the Quran at all, too. But nobody I have ever found says, why? Why should we follow this commandment? It's a beautiful commandment. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. It's beautiful. Well, yes, of course, we're told it pleases God, and I'm sure it does. But is there another reason to do it? It can be inconvenient to, not do the way you want to do and not act the way you want to act, and so what? It's very possible that the why we have to follow this great rule, this great commandment, the Golden Rule, why is to be found in some of the other religious teachings, the wisdom teachings of various groups around the world. But I do know for certainty that the Golden Rule and why we must follow it are to be found in the New Testament. In Matthew 7:12, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. That's the golden rule right out of the mouth of Jesus. Why? Why we should obey it is addressed both by Jesus and by Paul. Just a few verses before the golden rule statement, which is found in Matthew 7:12, 7:1 says, "Judge not, that ye be not judged. For what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again." And then Paul comes up in Galatians 6:7. He says, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." That's the answer. That's the answer to the why. Why obey this? What we do, what we say, what we think comes back to us. What we do to others, we are in fact doing to ourselves. Life is like a boomerang. What you send out comes back home. We are so wise to follow this great rule found throughout the world's wisdoms, because in following it, we will experience from other people the behavior we express to them. We're good to them. We're kind to them. We smile. We ask how they're doing. We express an interest in them. Back it comes. Love given out, concern, help given out, comes right back. On the other hand, when we experience negative behaviors at the hand of others, or even sometimes worse yet, someone we love very much, someone we're really concerned about, receives the brunt of somebody else's negative activities. Oh my, it brings home so quickly. And if it's our own behavior, we learn so clearly and indelibly that we must not do that ever again. That's emblazoned on our brains. Oh, how overwhelmingly sad it is that the leadership and the followers of ISIS or ISIL don't know this truth, that they will reap what they have sown. What they are giving out, they're going to get back. How overwhelmingly sad it is that the leadership of all the countries of the earth don't know that what they sow will come back to them, will come back to their countrymen. If they did, what a different world this would be. Now, why am I talking about this today? I believe that hearing this spiritual truth can bring about an inner change in people who they might not even know it, but they have somehow become spiritually prepared. They have the ears to hear. Jesus said that those who have ears to hear, let them hear. Spiritual ears. You're tuned to a new idea or an old idea. Now, in other words, you are here in this room by divine appointment. Whether this is the first time you ever heard this before, or it's the umpteenth time you've heard it before, out of my mouth, out of Velma's mouth, out of other people's mouth. Knowing, inwardly knowing, and heeding the inner meaning, the why you have to follow the golden rule. What you sow, you will absolutely reap. As you say this to yourself, as it becomes a little whisper in your own mind, a little check on your own behavior, your own thoughts, your acts, as the whisper goes on, what you will be doing, in fact, is bringing greater and greater harmony into your life. Harmony with God's law, harmony with God's will, harmony with other people. Do unto others what you want others to do to you. That's the whisper. That's the whisper. That's the little message. You know, that's far more than just beautiful words. Acting on it, planting it in your mind and putting the on button on. That will bring harmony and abundance and greater health to you. It'll bring peace and justice, understanding, greater love in your life, in your daily experiences. Spiritual truths found in the great wisdom religions of the whole world, including the Quran, are all included in the basis of our religious philosophy. Divine science is all-inclusive. What it says includes all of these truths, because the basis of our religious philosophy is omnipresence. God everywhere. God in each and all, everything connected in God. Despite the appearance of differences and separateness with others, everything is one. Everything is basically of this one divine energy. Everything is connected in this oneness. There is one basic energy, mind, force, love, intelligence in this universe, and everything is contained within it. What we call God, that infinite presence and power, what is called deity by 1,000 different names in 1,000 different languages, is a unifying presence, a presence that connects everything, that includes everything. And Jesus' own words convince us that this presence, this power, isn't impersonal, isn't just a kind of a law that works in the universe, in our world, in our lives. It isn't just something that observes us from on high. We, as we read the New Testament, see that God spoke to Jesus and Jesus spoke to God all the time. There was an ongoing dialogue in that man. He's said, however, to have spoken out loud to God at one of the most stressful times in his life, in the Garden of Gethsemane, the night before he was crucified. And the book of Mark tells us that at this time of great anxiety, it couldn't have been anything but, Jesus used the word Abba. In a lot of different Bibles, Abba is translated Father, and that's nice. However, in Aramaic, in the language that Jesus spoke all the time, Abba is translated beloved. For Jesus, his identification with, his connection with God was so real, so loving, so intimate that he said out loud what he must have said an infinite number of times inside himself. God was his beloved. And God is your beloved and mine. God is not impersonal. He is closer than hands and feet and nearer than breathing, as the poet said. We can walk in the footsteps of the Master by mentally and emotionally transforming God and the way we think about him, what we say to him when we speak to him, by calling him beloved. It changes the whole inner atmosphere of the mind and heart. To say it again and again to ourselves as we pray. establishes within us that connection, that inseparable oneness that we are with Him. We are part of God. And through Him, through this beloved, we are connected with everything, with everyone. Our beloved is unfailingly our source of good. We just have to go back again and again and again and again and again to Him. He is our source of protection. He is our source of patience, of abundance, of understanding, of insight, of clarity, of creativity. As we turn to our beloved repeatedly, we'll have no fear of Islamic terrorists, just a certainty of their actions being self-defeating, self-limiting, that they have such painful lessons that they are going to have to learn. That they, as well as the whole family of humanity, are in fact our brothers and our sisters. That our and their beloved is gradually going to lead them and us day by day as we turn to Him, to that higher path, ever higher, that He has planned for us. Shall we go within to our beloved?